Welcome to IAMCP Profiles of Partnership, the podcast that showcases how Microsoft partners and IAMCP members boost their business by collaborating with other members and partners. I'm your co-host, Anthony Carrano, and in each episode I sit down with some of the most innovative and successful partners in the Microsoft ecosystem. The International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners, otherwise known as IAMCP, is a global community where Microsoft partners connect, collaborate, and grow. So whether you're looking for new customers, new markets, or new solutions, IAMCP helps you build the right relationships to scale your business. And today's story is a powerful example of what happens when partnership goes beyond revenue and drives real human impact. In this episode, we're joined by Ronelle Naidoo, Chief of Sales at Mint Group, Microsoft's South Africa Country Partner of the Year. Mint led a large-scale digital transformation initiative across public hospitals in South Africa, reducing patient wait times, connecting healthcare systems, and digitizing millions of records. But that's only half the story. They also hired and trained over 100 young people from local communities, turning a technology project into a workforce development engine. And they didn't do it alone. Through their Ubuntu empowerment program, they partnered with other Microsoft partners, shared scope, shared leadership, and proved that collaboration can scale both business and impact. In today's conversation, we unpack what high-trust partnership, networking really looks like, why you don't always need to be in the driver's seat, and how AI and customer expectations are reshaping the Microsoft partner landscape. If you're looking to build deeper partnerships, increase customer value, and future-proof your Microsoft practice, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Hey, Ronelle, welcome back to the podcast. It's so good to see you again.
It's so good to be back. Thanks for having me.
I know it's been a minute. I'm really excited to hear all just kind of the great updates and of course just some of the new and fresh insights that you have. So really glad to have you. For those who aren't familiar with you, why don't you start off tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Mint.
Sure, no problem. So my name's Ronelle Naidoo. I am the Chief of Sales for Mint Group. Been in role now for a few years, and it's been super exciting to see how we have evolved as a business when we grew from our geo expansion into different areas and just trying to onboard different partners, working with different customers and growing our industry space. So it's been really exciting from a Mint point of view. And from my side, I think the team's just grown, working closely with Microsoft and just growing on that. That's what's happened when you haven't had me online for a while. But everything else the same, creating tomorrow and causing some amazing chaos in the industry.
Excellent. I know we're eager to kind of get into the story, the P2P story. But before we do, for those who aren't familiar with Mint, maybe you share a little bit about the company.
Sure. Mint's been around now. So Mint's a South African company, founded by Carl and Trevor and a few other people. And if I look at where we are now, the one thing that stayed the same, strategy changes for a lot of people, but we've always been about creating tomorrow using Microsoft technology. So we are Microsoft only partner. We've been around, like I said, for over 25 years. We have many different competencies when it comes to Microsoft. And I think Mint is one of the partners that knows the acronyms better than any of the other partners locally. I think we've got that Excel spreadsheet and we work on it quite a bit. But yeah, we are 3 cloud partners, so we focus a lot on solution selling. So we're not really, if you think about an ISV from a Microsoft perspective, we're something like that, but a little bit more. We also have like a licensing business where we take care of CSP and we work as a direct and indirect partner, working with many different partners and clients to see how we can assist from a licensing point of view. And then we look at solution selling and using the Microsoft technology to kind of solve problems for our clients. Our industries that we focus on, we spend a lot of time in healthcare. FSI is always going to be our baby. We have education and commercial as well. We do a little bit of work in mining and retail, but that's really from a, not in depth like we would with some of the other industries. So yeah, so that's Mint. We are here as I said, we're currently the country partner of the year for South Africa for Microsoft. So that really shows about the investments that we've made as a business over the couple of years and what we do. And I don't think many partners can say that they focus only on Microsoft as a vendor, especially locally. So the fact that we've been doing that over the last couple of years and still being successful, I think we're really good. We've got some of the best people in the industry, and I think that's really what makes us so great. So we don't call them resources, we call them people. So we've got some of the best people, and I think they're, when I go in a room with them and they get down and dirty with some of the technology, it's just amazing to see how passionate they are. So I think that's something about the Minties as well. We're very passionate about what we do, and I think that's what makes us one of the great partners in the current industry.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Well, Ronelle, I really enjoyed reading the P2P story that we're about to cover. Can you tell us a little bit about the client? You don't have to give us any names, but can you tell us a little bit about the industry, the size of the company, the technology you were implementing, and maybe even the challenges that the client was facing?
Yes, I mean, part of the intro on Mint, I spoke about healthcare. So we focus quite a bit on healthcare, and we look at how can we assist healthcare? There's so much going on and especially if we look at South Africa as a developing country. A lot of countries already have the digitization piece done, and they have the digital technology. From a South Africa perspective, we've got, great people with regards to wanting to do good, but sometimes we lack some of the resources, and one of them being from a funds perspective. So what we wanted to do was create a way for the citizens and for healthcare. How when you go to some of these public hospitals that we have, right? They sit in queues from 6 a.m. in the morning just to get their file retrieved, and then only get seen by a doctor at around 12 o'clock. That's a long time. So if any of us have, and I'm talking about public healthcare now, so if anyone has like an old granny or grandfather, and you're thinking about them going to go and have a checkup, that, they just sit there for hours. And we were like, and I think we worked with an amazing CEO in the department of, from a health perspective as well. And what they wanted to do was, how do we better this for our citizens? How do we create something that could be not just digitize, but change and impact the people of South Africa. So if I look at using technology to impact people's lives, we talk about you have WhatsApp and you can communicate, or you have like ChatGPT and stuff like that. This is, from a healthcare perspective, I think it's such a bigger impact than anything else, especially when you're already going through something that is so emotional. When you're going to go and have a checkup, it could be good, it could be bad, and now you're sitting there for hours waiting for your file, and then a lot of the time they can't find the file, meaning all your information is gone missing. So what this initially was we wanted to make that better with regards to from a timing side. So it started with us saying, okay, how do we reduce the time that people wait to find their files? And then it turned into something way much bigger than that, It turned into something where we were like, this data that they have. So if we take all the patient records and we digitize this data, we can pick up so much more information with regards to how many, teenage pregnancies do we have in this particular area, how many COVID patients they were in this area. And okay, so there's kids that we've now picked up that we've seen for the last 3 to 4 weeks that have pneumonia. So what's happening, or, that type of data, I think it's valuable if I think about what we can do with it. So it became so much bigger. And because it came bigger, we decided that in Mint true fashion, we can't do this alone. We needed to get people to come together to make sure that we deliver the best. Because as much as, and I think I've said this previously, it's a big pie and everybody can share from that pie. So for us, it was about the outcome that we had, about digitizing the hospitals in Gauteng in South Africa, and making sure that they could connect. Because what would happen is if Rudy goes to one hospital and in the next week he's in a different area, he cannot go and ask, in the different area to say, okay, I've been here, can you pull my file? There's no way of them pulling your file because your file sits at one hospital. So what we wanted to do is, if this is digitized and the hospitals are now connected from from a Johannesburg, or even like from an entire healthcare perspective in South Africa, you could go anywhere and will be able to get your file. So if you do have many illnesses and stuff like that, being able to have another doctor at any given time pick up and say, oh, you know what, I can't give Rudy this, and this is what he had. So for us, that was really, really something that we're super excited about. And I know you said you read the article, but I don't think it really puts into perspective about how exciting and what a game changer this is for us from a South African perspective. It sounds so small, digitizing patient records, but it's just been so much more than just taking a piece of paper and digitizing it. It's literally changing the lives of citizens that cannot maybe afford private healthcare and have to go to some of our government hospitals. And they really try. Our nurses try, but they've got so many people. If you go and, for example, Google the hospital Chris Hani Baragwanath, and you look at how many patients they get a day, you'd understand sometimes why this wait is so long when they have to go into these long corridors and try and find the patient's files. So sorry, I can get carried away talking about this because I'm super passionate about it. But that's really how the project started, and some of the ideas that we went on, and some of the processes and the output that we wanted to give on this project.
Okay. So what was the initial spark or need that led you to partner with another organization, okay, to collaborate? And then how did you recognize it as an opportunity to work with that partner company and the opportunity that you had at the hospital to really deliver the solution?
So at Mint, we have something called the Ubuntu Empowerment Program. So I think everybody knows what Ubuntu means. South Africa says it all the time, about bringing people together and stuff like that. So we created this program because, and I think I mentioned it before, we realized that people buy from people, and in the end of the day, we wanted to be able to scale during a time of, and I don't believe that I'm saying this again, but during a time of COVID, when we were stuck, we still needed to sell. We still needed to have a business and get deals done and get people online and stuff like that. But how do you do that? And people were very uneasy with Teams and stuff like that at that time. A lot of people didn't even have it and didn't even know how to use it till then. So we started then saying, what about this partner? We had good conversations with them. And so we created this program. And this program was really about partners that were EMEs, so like micro partners that have good relationships and stuff, but do not sit within the Microsoft as one of their managed partners. So we've onboarded quite a few partners within our space and onto this program. And we then started upskilling them, working with them, and we started adding them onto our opportunities. And then they started adding us onto their opportunities. So some we would prime and they would sub, and where they didn't have any of the skill sets, we would then go in. So they would have, the relationships in there, and they wanted to learn, but they didn't have competencies or they didn't have the certifications to get things done. We would come in as their partner, and then we would work together and sell. So when this project came up, it was not even questioned that we will work together with some of our Ubuntu partners. We're talking about local communities here. We wanted to get the youth involved. And I think part of the case study that you read was we knew that we didn't want us to digitize and everybody realized that we are now creating robots and we're taking away people's jobs. We actually employed 100 youth that had no experience from the local communities to come in and help us digitize. And I think that's what people miss as well. In order to do this, you need people to do it. It's not going to have like this to take over. So we were like, okay, We are Mint. We are a technology partner. We deliver solutions for Microsoft. We don't know how to manage have this recruitment agencies and manage 100 youth and I think everybody knows what the youth are like. I think they're the same across the world. So we were like, how do we do this? We want to do youth. We want to upskill them. And that's when the idea popped in. Let's take one of our partners that want to that have abilities to come and manage these youth, want to train them and upskill them, work with us. And that's how the first partner came about. So I think we kind of mentioned one partner or two partners in the case study, but we had like 3 or 4 partners that we worked on this. And we tried to say, even though we could do everything, we split the pieces and we gave everybody a piece of it. And we were like, this is your area. This is where you're going to shine and you take care of that. And then we kind of took care of the overall project and made sure that the delivery was happening and the technology behind it and the architecture and the solution itself. But then we had partners come in that we were like, we sat down and we were like, who best fits this? And as much as we have this entire list of partners, there were 1 or 2 that kind of stood out with regards to being passionate about the healthcare industry and being able to want to do the same and similar things that we do. So there was a values that met on there. So the values that met, the passion that met, and the quality and the integrity piece that we knew we were going to just fit, and it was going to be this good culture, not only for us, but for our client as well. And that's really how we went about it. It was just, there was no doubt in our mind. And now that I continue to digitize throughout South Africa in different areas, when we're looking at justice and we're looking at the defense and stuff like that, I will never go in just as Mint, even though we can deliver it and do it, because I think it's very important for us to uplift some of the other partners and take them along this journey so that they can create the skill sets. And that's what I love about Mint. We talk about creating tomorrow. It's our tagline. And I think you can only create tomorrow with everybody and not just from a singular perspective. And I think that's why this project has also been so successful, is because we've taken quite a few people along the journey with us.
Well, that's a great story. It's great being a mentor to other partners as well. So that's a wonderful, wonderful story. Can you tell us a time when this partnership didn't quite go as planned, and maybe what you learned about resilience and leadership from that experience?
Oh, yes. I mean, you always have something that's ideal on a piece of paper. A is going to meet with B, and then B is going to go to C. And then all of a sudden, A goes directly to C. And then you're sitting there and you're like, what just happened? And I spoke about employing 100 youth. Now I'm talking about youth that have never had a job before. And I think we all know about entitlement and those type of things when it comes to any type of youngster today, that getting to work at 8 o'clock and understanding that they need to prep files. There's a process. It's a factory. You need to follow the process. And then I think the biggest challenge that we had to do is we had to take a few steps back. We had to do the cha-cha, because it was trying to say that they don't understand as much as we do. So we've got this idea that we need to just run and we need to get to that end. There's our goal there. And these guys, we've brought them on board. And as much as we've given them training on what the project is, they don't have any experience. They don't understand that we have targets and we've got timelines and they've got to meet their daily goals and this. And so then the partnership between the partner, because I'd be like, you're not pushing them enough and you're not doing this and they're not meeting that. And then they'll be like, no, but we're trying and they're just not listening. And then we were like, listen, let's take a step back and let's empower them. So I think the big thing for me was that sometimes when you're on this journey and you're just running and you think everybody is with you at the same pace, to stop and realize that we're not all on, not every time you're going to be on the same lane or you're not going to think about the same things. And sometimes your expectations and what you are thinking as an output isn't what everybody is. And I think as long as you can meet in the middle, that's good enough. And I think that's where we did. We understood. We tried to understand the youth better, and we tried to kind of speak in their language and, bro and chill and everything that they say in today's age. And then the partnership, we kind of got that back where we said, guys, we're not going to let this get to us. Let us kind of set a proper job role for us that they understand, because these kids have not gone to college, they've not gone to university, they haven't had any work experience. It's the first time they're trying to work in a team. And you're trying to work in a team, and I think we all know that when you first work in a team and you're like, I'm better than this and you should do it my way, and we're not going to scan this way, and you've got to scan this way, and you've got to write the documents this way. You must know you're dealing with patient files. So the way you take it out is the way you've got to put it back. It is in the sequence order. You cannot move that, especially when you're looking at like maternity files that are kept forever. So, you've got to follow that process. And I think that was my biggest learning through this, was that even though you feel everybody's on board and you've got your team on there, when you're working with other people, you're going to have to do that cha-cha. And you're not going to just do it in the beginning. You're going to do it in the middle. You're going to do it in the end. And you just have to be okay with it, because I think that's what really makes also a successful project, is understanding how to work with each other and that not everybody is the same.
I've been in this business a long time and have done some of the projects that you've mentioned. You just brought back a lot of memories. Some I thought I had erased. So thank you for the story.
I'm not sure if I should be sorry about that, or happy that I brought back one or two of those names. I always laugh. I love this project, but I complain to my boss all the time, and I was like, you have to buy me dye for my hair. I have more gray hair now than I've ever had before.
I lost mine.
And it's like, I've got to dye my hair. I never used to dye it. So, yeah.
That's funny. I'm just curious. You kept referencing youth. Like, what are the age ranges of these youth?
So in South Africa, you have different. I mean, I spoke about this earlier, and I think everybody knows we're a beautiful country. We have really successful people. Some of the most intelligent people come from South Africa, and very smart people. And then we have really smart youth that we work with, but unfortunately they come from backgrounds where they cannot afford to go to university, or they cannot afford, to go. So they come from our township areas. So what we did was we worked off a list of youth. And when I talk about youth, some of them are 18 and some of them are 24. And they finished school and they don't have jobs yet. So we wanted them to this be an entrance, into the working experience and understand how it is. We do have one or two people are like that in their 28s and 29s, and they're from the community and they're really good, and they don't have any jobs at this point in time. So we did take them. But when I mention youth, I'm talking about
that 18 to 24.
That 18 to 24 that we have in there.
That's impressive. I mean, I'm just thinking, because that's the age range of, at least two of my older sons, and my younger, he's a little younger than that, but I'm thinking of his buddy, all their friends doing this type of work. That's impressive. That makes his story that much more impactful.
So if you think it's about a youth today and you tell them, follow this instructions, they tend to not follow the instructions. They will give you what you wanted, but they're going to do it their way. And I think their way, because they feel that they know best, right? And
course,
I mean,
right?
I've got my son that's turning 18 this year, and I still cannot understand him. I cannot understand sometimes the logic on certain things. And my husband's like, just let it be, let it go. And I'm like, I'm sitting here thinking about that song, Let It Go. And it's very hard to do, because I'm like, I want to be like, but you can't do it that way. But then he's like, just leave it. And then when they do it and they finish something, they look at you like, I told you so,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but you could have done it in 12 minutes. You took a whole week to do it. But that's really what we dealt with. But in the end, when we finished the first, the hospital, and if you look at the numbers that we've completed from a scanning perspective and the files that we've done, it is impressive. And that's really because how they came together. So it's always like when you start off something and then you've got to keep motivating them. And then I think about us in the workplace, now and then you always need to have that, that training that you get together with everybody and you're like, kumbaya, and you get excited and you're like, this is why I'm here and this is what I'm doing. And so that's what we ended up doing in the project. We would always have touch bases with them where we'd go and be, get some lunch and celebrate together. And whenever we hit a number, we would tell them, this is what you have done. You've digitized these amount of patient records. This is the impact you're making. And then it slowly started getting better where they would, have their moments, but it was absolutely amazing to create opportunity for these youth. And the nice thing is we've obviously signed phase two. We've moved into different hospitals.
Okay.
And I'm so excited that we've managed to take at least 90% of that youth that we initially could only give like a 1 year contract to. And now they've got another 3 year contracts and they're moving and they're learning more. And we will be able to create, income for them for another year or two. So that was really exciting for us. So that we were very grateful to get that extension and move on to the next few hospitals, fund the success of this project. And I think for them, it's even better when you see the fact that you're creating opportunity for other people as well as doing the project that you're doing.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously just the working, the work you accomplished, obviously with the hospital. I think if I read the story correctly, it was like processing times were reduced by like 40%, which huge
Yep.
impact. But then also, and you might have mentioned this earlier, but if you didn't, in the story, for those that are listening, like when you're talking about, oh yeah, we employed some youth, we're not talking about like, oh hey, I got a room full of people. It was like over 100 young youth. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot, in this age group, which is really impressive. And the fact that they're gaining, those digital and operational skills, that's not only impacts them in the here and now. They get money in their pockets, but the skills they're developing is, I mean, you're going to change the trajectory of their life, because they're gaining these real world skills. So that's pretty awesome. I am curious. I know, and I want to kind of. There's some other things I want to get back to, but just to kind of close the loop, like with the youth, what prompted y'all to approach, like think of like approaching like youth, employing this many youth to help with this project? What was like kind of the genesis of that? What were some of those conversations that triggered that?
So to be honest, the entire credit for that goes through to the department and as well as the MEC of health. She had this idea. I think she's really passionate about what she does, and she was like, "If you've got to use youth," and that's really what kicked it off. And we were like, "Youth." And I think when you look at us, when you're in this entire deployment solution and you just want to get things done, and then somebody throws the spanner in the works, we're like, oh my God, how are we going to do that? And then it was like this bubble that just exploded. And then it 100% came from the department where they wanted to create job opportunities and they wanted to create skills upliftment doing this project. So that credit for wanting to go in and try and use the youth came through from the MEC and the department. So that's why I said this project wasn't just about us going in and telling somebody you have a problem and we're here to solve it. It was something where we got it on the table and we were like, oh yeah, this, and you can do that. And we like, everybody put ideas together and it just became this explosive implementation that not one person can take the credit for, because it was definitely a team effort across different people. And I think that's true partnership, because it wasn't just a partnership between us and our partners, but it was between the end customer and us. We all had the same vision, because sometimes you work with clients and they like, they have to just do this, this is part of their roadmap and they have to do it, but it's not something that they're so passionate about. So when you're working with a client that's so passionate about it and it's what they live and breathe, it makes it so much easier and so much more exciting to do a project like that. So that's really how we came about wanting to use the youth. And it's been the best decision. So we've taken that idea now and we've kind of replicated it in other areas, and it's really exciting to be able to do that.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. That's fantastic. Let me ask you this: like in your experience, with partnering, what would you say is like, what does like high trust networking look like in practice, and how do you measure whether it's working?
I think trust is something that I think if you have any relationship or any partnership, and I know this sounds like you're gonna say, oh no, it's a real woman thing to say, but you kind of feel it, and you kind of know when something's working or it's not working. But also when you get excited about the same things, and when you share issues, and then you like, it's easy to solve them, and you like, and when people say to you, and you have a partner and you say, what, we've done this and this, and I don't agree with this, and they're like, I understand, I agree with you, what about if we do something like that? And for me, we've worked with a few partners before where we would sit in a boardroom and we would agree on something, and then you'd go back and then you could just see that there was just no connection, and it was just not working because everything we agreed on is not working out. So I think when you work with a partner and you just feel it, and you sit in there and you have the same excitement and passion about something, try it out. It's like when you're dating, you're never going to know if it's going to work or not. And then the next thing you know, you're going to put a ring on it, or you're going to be like, run. And I think, yeah, bye, Felicia. So I think that's how truly partnership is. We've worked on many partners before where we were like, we're not going to do this again. And it's just because it doesn't feel right. And when you're not happy in something, when you're doing a project, especially with the projects like we do, everybody needs to be happy. And everybody needs to have an equal share to that table. And that's how we do it. It's never like, Mint is leading this project and we're going to decide on everything. You never do that. You give everybody the opportunity to speak at the table. And when you're speaking at the table and everybody has the similar answers and the similar questions and stuff, it's just gelling and it's going to work. You win some, you lose some, and it's all about chances, I think. And I think that's what partnership is about. Sometimes you see it on paper, like we spoke about it, and be like, this is an ideal fit. You guys do this and you do that, and it's an ideal fit. And then you kind of come together. And Microsoft's been really great at that, where they try to merge partners, and then the partners are like, no, not going to work. My values, your values, what I want my outcomes to be. So I honestly think it's like a trial and error phase that you go through. And sometimes it works and then sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it should not stop you from wanting to go and partner again. Because sometimes I've been burnt and I'm not going to do that again. And I'm not going to go down this road again. And it's like, no, you can't do that. You cannot cut yourself. You've got to give everybody that equal opportunity. And that partner could most likely partner very well with someone else. Not everybody. What do we always say? Not everyone's ice cream. So you're not going to be liked by, not everyone is going to like you, and you're not going to fit, and it's okay.
That's good. It doesn't surprise me that the way you share that, because there's definitely a strong, like the human element. I mean, obviously, Mint is a stellar technology company, but just that human centric approach to everything that you do, it just runs throughout. So I'm not surprised that's how you shared. You answered that.
Well, I'm going to change topics just a little bit because, the IT industry is changing quite a bit right now, just a little bit, right? So with AI and the automation that's taking place right now, it's reshaping the partner landscape. What's one area where you see partners both leveraging and or underestimating the opportunity or the risk
With the AI?
with AI? Yeah.
So I think even we went through that phase of like, really, what is AI? How is AI going to fit in? Everybody's talking about it. And then you kind of realize that you're using it all the time, and it's already been included in quite a few things. But if I think about Mint, and if I look at one or two other partners within the IMCP, obviously we run the chapter here and we go through that. And I think the loss of opportunity is the uncertainty of what it means to actually work with it. And is it going to take away some of the other solutions that you've created? What about the other workloads that you've done? Where do I fit in there? How am I going to tie back into what we've, are my skill sets going to be there? Do I have the right skill sets? How do I learn? How do I adapt to being able to do that? What does it mean? And I think it's really about change. And I think that's where a lot of the partners that we've seen, and when we had that shift internally from a sales team, I can talk about Mint. It was about, you've got to do it. We've got to take it to our clients. If we're not going to do it, somebody else is. And I really think it was that change, about wanting to change and wanting to be able to do something different, because AI is really different. We've done many different things before, but AI is so unpredictable. It's not like you can actually go and sell AI on its own, because you know what I mean? So I think that is it, because AI means different things to different people. And I think it's about the change, and I think it's about the impact that it's going to make to an individual and to the company and to the sales process. And I think that's why a lot of people kind of look at it differently, but it's evolved, right? I think that question would have been even a different answer that I would have given you, because I would have still been sitting in that about do we add it in? I've just done another proposal now where I was like, we're going to do this, but a massive piece about it is about the AI integration. That was the story. But a month or two, I'm lying, maybe even 12 months ago, because I forgot we already in January, I would have never added that in there. This is what you wanted, and it's just going to be that. So I do think it's just around what it means to people and how it impacts them. And also, not everybody is technical, right? So when you're not technical, then you don't understand something, and you have these technical guys that want to come and bombard you with everything, and you're a business person. And like I said, it's very unpredictable. It doesn't have a beginning and an end, really, because it just keeps changing all the time. So it's also hard for people to kind of just accept and understand. So I think once you have a strategy, which is important, you've got to have a strategy, and you've got to have a change enablement, and you've got to take people along the journey. And also you've got to, make sure everybody understands what it really means in order for companies to be able to sell it to other companies and make them feel okay about it. And that it's not going to take over everything. It's just going to help you do your work. It's going to help you. It's going to empower you to do better.
So, Ronelle, as technology and customer expectations evolve, how do you see the balance between technical innovation, partner relationships, and customer value shifting over the next few years?
So from a technical point of view, I think if I look at the innovation, I look at how, as a technology company, and we have really smart people that we work with, and the excitement that has, I think before you would be able to kind of, go into a field, and that's my field. My field's going to be that I learn dynamics, and I'm going to learn everything in dynamics. But with everything now getting integrated with each other, the shift is happening where you're going to have to open up to be able to look at your skill sets across the board, so that you know how everything's going to tie into each other. And I think that's really what Microsoft wanted to kind of create as well, is how does all their workloads link into each other. So we've seen that shift already internally, where we've had people focus normally just on an Azure side of things that are now spreading and trying to understand other areas and getting certifications and understanding how that. So that's a big shift, and especially from a technical point of view. And then if I look at a partnership, and I think that makes it a little bit different as well, because you always partner with people to say, okay, I have A and B, and you can fit in with C, and then we make this perfect partnership because I'm really good at A and B, and you are great at doing this. And now with everybody trying to learn new things and do things, it's like, where do we fit in as a partnership? What do I do? What do you do? How do we make sure that we are both successful at the same time? So the shift of understanding how we work better together, that is definitely coming up as well, because a lot of the partners that I work with currently that never wanted to go into certain areas are now having to go into that areas and expand on that, where it was never part of their strategy. But in order to stay relevant and in order to be active, you have to do that. It's no longer where something's just going to be fixed and I can sell this product and it's going to be there forever. Things are changing all the time, that even from a partnership perspective, if we look at the different partners, everything's evolving. So none of the partners are staying the same. And that is why when I started, I said, Mint is one of the partners that are only focused on Microsoft still. And I think that's a big thing as well. So we obviously have to look at partnerships broader and kind of expose that. And from a client perspective, they're getting smarter. They're hiring smarter people. Their expectations are changing. you becoming the trusted advisor to somebody that's already being advised. So you going in and they want to basically say, do you know this is, before you'd be like, I want this. And they would be like, I want a Ferrari. Now they come to you and they're like, I want a Ferrari, but I want a Ferrari with like 8 doors and it needs to be 2 colors and this needs to be that. And I know that you can have, so it's like their expectations have changed. They're using smarter and bigger words because they are now in the know. They have knowledge at their fingertips. There's no longer a thing where you can go in as a partnership and just tell a customer what to do. You now have to do what we were supposed to do from the start, is listen and then kind of expand as to how you're doing it. So I think the shift is important for everybody, but I think mostly for our clients and our customers, as I see how they are expanding into. And I see it, we're seeing it currently. Your sales cycles change. If it was 6 months, it's now becoming longer because you have to go through more processes to make sure that they sign. And that's just because of ChatGPT and everything and AI and everything that they have that is so easy to use that they kind of go and ask it first. So they have this idea. And sometimes we all know that ChatGPT can be wrong and they can guide you in the incorrect direction. So when you go there to try and be the trusted advisor and with all your experience that you have and you're telling this client, but you cannot do that because of these reasons, they're like, no, we can do it because of that. So that cycle's gone longer. So there's a massive shift that's happening. And I think you have to be relevant. You have to make sure that you're up to date with everything going on. You have to be open to new ideas. And I think partner to partner is the best way to do it because there's learnings that we all have. I'm sure if I spend some time with you, there's clients and deals you've done where if we can, that I could do some learnings from and I could be like, okay, I shouldn't do things this way. And it's just being about open. So I think as the shift happens, we have to be open to change. We have to really, and it's hard, hey, because you always want to, you say it's like, oh no, accept change. To accept change, it's hard, especially if you've been doing something, the same thing for so long. You kind of revert back to that. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Oh, it really does. It really does. I appreciate it.
So I know, earlier you talked a little bit about, when when evaluating partners, important things are around like alignment, easy to work with, and feelings. And I like maybe if we can unpack a little bit more, like when partnering with another company, whether, and maybe that's not necessarily what criteria, but like either decision-making process or framework, like do you use to determine whether our partnership will truly complement like your strengths and deliver, greater value to the customer?
Yeah. So we always look at, we have lots of frameworks in place that we have internally, and we have lots of documentation that we go through that we share with our partner, with our non-negotiables, and this is what we're going to do. These are our expectations. And then we kind of go into a workshop with them to review that. So at any given time when partners want to get onboarded or we want to work, we don't just say, here's an opportunity, can we go after it? It's a process with regards to going in and then we sit around the table and we workshop on that and we take them through the non-negotiables. We take them through the documentation that we have and we ask them what's their expectations because it's a partnership. So even though we want to put down our framework, a lot of them have their own NDAs and teaming agreements and those type of things that we go in. And I think I think once you do the paperwork, I still think the human piece comes to it because you're working with each other. So I think once you're in a room with each other and you kind of figure out, is this going to work or not? But yeah, one thing that I have learned is that having all your documentation, having everything in there is very important at the same time.
That's good. And my last question is, if another partner listening today wanted to replicate your success, what's like either like the one principle or mindset shift you tell them to adopt first?
So I think if there's one thing that I could say that we've learned from this is that it's okay to to not be in the in the driving seat. Is it the driving seat, or, it is that, right? Am I saying the right word? Or you don't have to be in control of the steering wheel all the time. And I think that's very important when you want to go into a deal like this. When normally you'd be like, I'm priming and you're going to sub, and this is the scope of work and this is how you're going to do it. But when you're doing a deal like this that involves people, it involves processes, and it involves such massive change, it's okay to not always want to say that this is the way, and being able to have a way where you can work together and figure it out together. And I think that's important, that word of who we are and who you are and what do we become together. And I think that expectation of not wanting to just be in the driving seat all the time, it's okay. And also, like I mentioned before, doing the cha-cha, going back, take a few steps forward, going back again, and then doing it together. And I think the one big learning I took out of this as well, from a personal point of view, that is, these big projects, it may look amazing on paper, but it takes a lot out of you as well. So you have to be passionate about it, and you have to finish what you started. You got to be able to say, I'm going to finish what I started. And as tough as it gets, as emotional as it gets when you're going through that, to see it through and make sure that you understand that you are not bigger than the outcome. I think that was one of the biggest things, because sometimes it got really tough and you'd be like, can I hand this over? And you're like, no, you can't, So I think that was one of the big things that it was, that I learned. And also communication. I think another last word that I would say is communication. Communication is key across there.
Excellent. A lot of great nuggets there. Really appreciate that. That was fantastic. Well, this has really been enjoyable. Gained a lot of great insights from you. And so thank you for being on. For those who would like to find out more about Mint, or reach out and connect, with you and learn more, what are some of the best ways to connect with you guys?
So yeah, we have our website, which you can go through, or you can get me on LinkedIn. Very easy to find.
Okay.
Ronelle Naidoo. You'll see Mint on there. So just pop me a message, and happy to connect with you and see how we can support.
Excellent. We'll have all the information, the links in the show notes as well. So, well, great. Well, Ronelle, thank you for being on. Appreciate you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Rudy. Take care.
Thank you. You as well. Take care.
Wow, that was a great episode. I really enjoyed having Ronelle, back on. It's really fascinating, Rudy, just as we talk with so many, just different, partners, here in this tech space. What's really refreshing is just to hear just the human approach, that Ronelle and Mint, bring to everything. Where just even from like the opening lines about, yes, we're, a Microsoft only shop, and, just their areas of specialization and their tech proficiencies, but just the emphasis on, we've truly got the, the best people, to the qualities that they look for, with partners, which was just, just talking about like, the people side of it, right? The alignment, the easy to work with, the ability to communicate, and then just kind of topping it off with, when they get into their partnerships, focusing on what, and I love this line, what we can become together. And I just thought that was just really refreshing, just to hear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a great story. I've known about Mint going way back to 2014, 2015, when one of their founders, Carl, came to Austin as they were starting their geo expansion process. And Ronelle just reinforced one of the stories he told me a long time ago about how they like being mentors to other partners. In fact, they call it the Ubuntu process, and you heard that in the story. And that's a great opportunity and process within an organization to have an established process to reach out and uplift other partners. So that's great, not only for Mint, but also for the community. And so the story really reinforced that in how they did that, providing partners, and citizens of South Africa with an opportunity for a 1-year contract. And for what they learned on that job, then they were able to turn that into another 3-year contract. So that's a great community opportunity. So I really appreciate that they follow the principles of IAMCP about partnering, and they have a formal process for it. So that's a great story. That was a great story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just, they're truly about, and this thing that really resonated with me is truly about, using technology to improve people's lives, right? So to the points that you were just talking about, like with the Ubuntu, the hiring all those young people to, just the story itself where, really, working, on the digital transformation, for hospitals and how that's going to improve, the quality of patient care, but also the work experience for the people in the hospital, and then you're going to see, just better outcomes. So it was definitely really refreshing and enjoyable to hear about how, they're truly utilizing tech to, to make the world a better place and really impact, all the people's lives, very positively. So that was just an awesome story.
Well, thank you for listening today, and thank you for joining us on this episode of IAMCP Profiles in Partnership, powered by Dynamis Marketing. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and find it useful and inspiring. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. One of the best ways to partner for success is to join IAMCP, a community of Microsoft partners who help each other grow and thrive. IAMCP members can find and connect with other partners locally and globally and access exclusive resources and opportunities. Whether you're looking for new customers, new markets, or new solutions, IAMCP can help you achieve your goals. To learn more, visit the website at www.iamcp.org.